Shane from 1953 was an American Western classic, starring Alan Ladd as the character Shane, this mysterious gunslinger who rides into the Wyoming open range one day, where he befriends a family of settlers who are just trying to survive. But although he's just seeking a peaceful life, the events that follow in the film will bring him into a struggle with some greedy landowners and ultimately into a deadly face-off with another gunfighter. What can I say? Shane is a masterpiece, and I've been looking forward to reviewing this one. I'll give a summary of the film, spoiler-free, and then offer some closing thoughts. Well, the film opens up with the character of Shane riding into the picture from who knows where, and just making his way across the farmland of Joe Starrett and his family. And Joe Starrett is played here by actor Van Heflin. And he seems a little cautious about this guy, but ultimately he befriends Shane and invites him to eat dinner with him, and later he invites him to stay and work for him. Now, Starrett is the head of a homesteading family. He's there together with his wife, Marion, played by actress Jean Arthur, and their young son, Joey, played by Brandon DeWilde. And we discover that the Starretts are a peaceful people who just want to work the land along with some other settlers, but they are in a conflict with some cruel cattle barons who are led by Rufus Riker. What a great name. Played by actor Emil Meyer. And he just wants these settlers off the land so he can have full control of the open range, basically. So we meet some of these other settlers who, due to intimidation of Riker and his men, they're just ready to get out of there. One of them, the character Ernie, played by Leonard Strong, I actually remember him as the hitchhiker from that famous episode of The Twilight Zone with the mysterious hitchhiker. And he's had enough. He's tired of being bullied and pushed around, and he's ready to leave. But we see that Starrett is hanging in there. He's strong, and he's willing to stay and to fight. Now, Shane, meanwhile, we see is pretty quiet. We really don't get to see much into his background or learn much about who he is. Other than that, he is just a good hard worker, he's good with his guns, and he's just a friendly, trustworthy man, and he's just enjoying his time with the Starrett family. Now, this young Joey really takes a liking to Shane, and Shane helps teach him about courage and heroism and things like this. But soon, he's going to be drawn into the conflict. Shane heads into town one day to get some supplies and clothing, and this is sort of the hangout for Riker and his men. And he catches the attention of these guys, and they try to pick a fight with him, try to get him going, throwing a drink in his face and stuff. But Shane keeps his cool for now and just walks away from it. Now, Starrett is a man of conviction, and he's not afraid, and he urges the other farmers to just stay. But we can see that Riker's influence, his harassment, it's really starting to take its toll on these people. Now, Shane makes a subsequent visit to town, and this time, a big old fight is going to break out with him and Riker's men, with both Shane and Starrett just holding their own, just in a big old fist fight. This sends a message to Riker that things are getting serious, so he calls in the heavy artillery. He brings in another gunfighter, character Jack Wilson. He's played by none other than legendary actor Jack Palance. Believe it or not. Now, Riker is persistent, and he shows up and he offers to buy the land from Starrett for a fair price. And all the while, Shane and Wilson have this cool stare down. It's a great scene. But again, Starrett is a man of conviction. He's not ready to leave. So later, one of the settlers, this character Stonewall Tory, played by none other than Elisha Cook Jr., he heads to town, and while he's there, he wants to get a drink. He winds up getting in a duel with the far superior gunman Wilson. And he's basically shot down on the street. And Wilson is just cruel. He's just got this wicked smile, and when he kills him, it's just like he's just playing a game. He doesn't care. Now, a funeral follows, and now others have had enough. They're ready to leave. And Starrett, he's had enough. He's ready to go and confront Riker. But Shane isn't having it, and he insists that he will be the one to go. And after the two friends have a big old fight together, and Shane basically clobbers Starrett, just enough to knock him out, Shane is on his way into town for the final showdown with Riker and with Wilson. And look, I can't ruin this epic ending. You've probably seen it before, but if you haven't, you're not getting any spoilers from me. You got to see the fantastic ending to this classic. Well, let me offer some closing thoughts here. Shane was released in 1953 by Paramount and was directed and produced by George Stevens. The screenplay, written by A.B. Guthrie Jr. with contributions from Jack Sher, was based on the 1949 novel of the same name by Jack Schaefer. This film won the Academy Award for Color Cinematography for Loyal Griggs and was a nominee for Best Motion Picture, Best Actor in a Supporting Role for Brandon DeWilde and also Jack Palance, and for directing for George Stevens and writing in the screenplay for A.B. Guthrie Jr. What can I say? This is an epic Western and one of the finest films you can see. Shane, we see, is kind of a remnant of the dying gunslinger era. He's trying to put his guns away, live a life of peace, and just enjoy the company of this family. And it's a theme we see in a lot of Westerns and other movies because we know better. Ultimately, this is a hero who's going to be required to return to his previous ways when pushed too far. And that's exactly what happens. It's the moment we're waiting for all along. And, again, I can think of so many films that this was reminiscent of. It's a common theme of the hero. He wants to settle down. He wants to have a life of peace. And it's not going to happen. That's what this film's all about, is seeing the hero return to form again. Alan Ladd was remarkable as Shane. I've seen him in several crime films on my channel that I've reviewed, like The Glass Key and The Blue Dahlia and so on. So it was a treat to see him here as this heroic, legendary cowboy. There's so much mystery to his character. We don't really know much about who or what he was, where did he come from. He just sort of rides in mystery, and through the duration of the film, we never really learn a great deal about him, but we still like him. He's such an enjoyable character to watch. He's noble and he's protective. He wants only that quiet life of peace, and again, watching the film, we know eventually he's going to get pulled into the struggle of these settlers. Now, notable to me watching this was his relationship with the young Joey. Shane is like a kindly mentor to him, teaching him about, things like drawing a gun and how to be a hero, and all the while, Joey just views Shane as almost this mythical, heroic character. Their friendship shows the human side of Shane, the almost fatherly role that makes you wonder if, in his life as a gunslinger, was family something that he never himself got to experience? What was his background? What was his story? To me, the film Shane is slow, I'll be honest, but it's perfect in that regard, in that it gives you time to really soak in the landscapes, the cinematography, to really get to know the characters. I also felt that as we get into the story, there's a steady and consistent atmosphere of dread and uncertainty. Watching the film, you never really feel completely safe, because throughout the film, we see Riker's evil men just showing up and taunting the settlers unexpectedly, killing their animals, burning their property, and so on. So there's an uneasiness throughout the film. And the film is gorgeous to watch, but it's also uneasy at the same time because of that perpetual threat always hanging over everything. And this helps build up and lead to that inevitable final showdown that we know is coming, and we can't wait to see it. And trust me, it is worth the wait. And speaking of mysteries, another thing I love about the film, and I'll cautiously mention this so as not to drop any spoilers, would be the ambiguity of the ending. What happened at the very end of the film? I think people have debated this. There's a lot of uncertainty surrounding the fate of the hero, as we see the trope of that one last ride gunslinger arc. Shane is a character who enters and departs in mystery, and I will say no more about the ending if you haven't seen it. Van Heflin was excellent as Joe Starrett, the dedicated family man working his land and just fighting to the bitter end, and befriending Shane and opening up his home. And look, I don't know how to put this, but when I watch Van Heflin in a film like this, there's something about his face to me that's just a little bit offbeat. I don't mean this mean, and I don't know how to say it. It's like his facial features are unique. He looks like he has been through a ringer. And that works so well in a Western movie like this. I remember thinking the same thing when I was watching him in a different film, 3:10 to Yuma, which is another excellent Western, by the way, where once again he plays a struggling rancher who is escorting an outlaw to be taken away. And again, he's got that weird, rugged facial look. And it just helps give the frontier vibe to the character, I think. And while you go into this film and think that just maybe there might be some sort of a possible forbidden romance with Shane and Jean Arthur's character Marion, I mean, the music kind of nudges you a little bit in that direction. Honestly, that never really happens. Maybe some minor sparks as he dances with her, but Shane all the time remains respectful and honoring of Starrett's wife, and he keeps his distance. Thinking about it, Jean Arthur was about 50 here in this film. This is one of her final films, and I like how the filmmakers don't utilize the trope of the guy with the unrealistically young and gorgeous prairie wife in her mid-20s or anything like that, but rather, Jean Arthur depicts a strong, older, mature woman that you would realistically expect to see for a man like Starrett's character. I just think she was perfectly cast in this film. And again, this was one of her final roles you would see in Hollywood. The cinematography by Loyal Griggs was breathtaking. Just features the sweeping Wyoming landscapes that just adds so much richness to this film. It's a beautifully shot film. And man, I just love all the mountains in the background. It looks so good. Additionally, the musical score by Victor Young was just incredible and perfectly suited the film. Namely, that noble and heroic theme for Shane. But then you had other moments of music in the film, like Stonewall's funeral, which was especially poignant, very sad music. And even the evil character Wilson has his own sinister theme. It's a really wonderful movie soundtrack. Anyhow, many, many excellent performances made up this film. Elisha Cook Jr. as Stonewall Tory was a tough rancher with attitude. He's someone I have seen in a lot of crime films, and he usually plays the more mousy little character, guilty and so on, usually dies. And he's not so mousy here. His character really stands strong, even when facing off with a lethal gunfighter. He stands his own. And I like seeing that side of Elisha Cook Jr. as more of a tough character. And Jack Palance, of course, was so sinister and creepy as the evil gunman. It's wild to read some of the trivia about the film Shane. I mean, there is so much background to this film. And I love the information about how when Jack Palance joined the film, he had been better known as a theater actor and had no experience with horses or guns. And because the film production was subject to delays, Palance actually spent his spare time practicing getting on horses and practicing with shooting pistols and so on, so that by the time filming continued, he appeared to be completely proficient at looking and acting the part of the evil cowboy character. And of course, my 3 loyal fans would know that I would be remiss if I didn't point out that I love seeing Edgar Buchanan as the character of Fred Lewis. Come on, it's Uncle Joe, moving kinda slow at the junction. Petticoat Junction. But he's got a great beard in the film, too. Anyhow, watching this epic film, you can see how this inspired so many films that would follow. Notable to me, I think of the film Pale Rider from 1985, the Clint Eastwood film, that in a lot of ways, that feels like a respectful homage to the film Shane. But like I said, there are a lot of films that followed this mold. I know I need to wrap this one up, but 2 other brief things I just wanted to point out that I loved in this film. I have to make note of them. I love the big bar fight, but I love any sort of a big scrap where you've got two friends are in the fight together. They wind up back to back. There's the brief acknowledgement and a mutual smile. Then back to fighting they go. That's the type of thing you just love to see in a film. It's awesome. And of course, if you watch the film, you will get to see Shane do the epic gun spin. And I loved it. Shane was a timeless Western about a mysterious gunslinger who just drifts into town one day, into a Wyoming valley, and becomes a reluctant hero and protector of some struggling homesteaders as ruthless landowners try to push the settlers off the land. It's up to Shane, who has to return again to his violent past, to stand up to this injustice and defend the future for these settlers. It's an epic film. It's rich with themes of sacrifice, moral complexity, and even the fading end of the gunslinger era. Alan Ladd, Van Heflin, Jean Arthur, and Jack Palance, man, they're just wonderful in this film. This is a Western masterpiece, and if you have not seen it, it is definitely one worth checking out. Shane, come back!